Oh, good Lord, I've only just woken up. Oh, look, isn't it nice and natural light? I might start recording my videos during the day. Hello. It's morning here. Anyway, this next video, I made for I made it. Uh, Literally 5 seconds out of bed. I slept in this chair and I've just gone, okay, this next video I made as a guest video, but I was so happy with it. I said to the fella, when you go live, I'm going to put it on my channel, and he said, no problem. So that is why there's going to be a little introduction at the front of the video addressing another channel. Oh, I just wanted to clear up any confusion. Sure. Alright there. Oh, nice. I've got a little bit of a cold. Oh, great opening. I mean, I'm fighting a kind of a losing battle, and I'll tell you why. Because I have my obvious favourite content makers. And when I, for instance, think about Sargon's This Week in Stupid, which comes out every Sunday, I look forward to it. And when it comes up on my listings, I'm like, oh, brilliant. Cup of tea, donut, and then... not cup of tea donut, cup of tea and a donut, and then I press play, and then some complete stranger comes on and goes, oh, hi there, Sargon's on holiday, he asked me to fill in. I'm like, oh, you cunt. So I know I'm that man, but Iconoclast did feature me in his top 5, and although he said it was in no order, I was at number 1, so... You know, let's just try this. And also, how can you resist a video called My Sexy Childhood? If you can, fair enough. Oh, but you know, you're not taking risks in life. You're not. Well, you're probably making quite a good decision regarding your download history. Anyway, what I thought I'd talk about is my sexy childhood. Now, there was a little bit of abuse, which isn't what I'm going to talk about. I mean, there was here's me not talking about it. There was a magician called Martin who had his filthy way with me. Oh, you're going to like it? Not a lot. It's behind you. And it's all right, though. No worries. I mean, I went and found him. I found out where he lived. I went round there with a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, lung full of crack and a house brick, door open, crack, went in, put the boot in about 20 times, sat down, watched him bleeding, smoked a joint, wrong bloke, wrong house, whoops. So I'm not going to go into that, but if you go to my channel, that story's there somewhere. Little advert for my channel. I do a lot of personal stories. I was a stand-up comedian for 9 years. I was a smack and crackhead for most of my adult life. So a lot of personal stuff, a lot of nostalgia, as well as a lot of political stuff, a lot of stuff about the current moral panic, etc., etc. But that's not what this is about. I was just thinking about those strange little sexual encounters we have as children. Now, I know that doesn't sound great, but you'll see this is a video about innocence, really. Perhaps innocence lost. No, it's not. This is about the innocence of childhood. I mean, Sigmund Freud, you know, the grandfather of psychoanalysis and psychotherapy, he said that the human is never more sexually active than when they're toddlers. Now, of course, he's not talking about fucking, but there's the developmental process a child goes through where they're attaching importance and significance to their oral, anal and genital regions, which is important. If you don't do that and you get to 20, you're in trouble. You'll be wondering what that stuff falling out of that hole in your bum is. But anyway, these are innocent stories, and I've just got a couple of them, and they're in order. They're in order of how they happened in my early years. So I'm going to take you back to when I was about 6 years old, and I lived in a middle of terrace in a little place on the M25 called Dartford. and a nice little street. You know, this was in the 70s. This is when there weren't many cars in the road and you could play tennis. Every time Wimbledon come round, we all went down Woolworths and got a couple of $1.99 tennis rackets, and you'd do all that kind of shit. Play 40-40 Scouts. You know, it was the local dialect version of hide and seek, I expect. All the doors are open. You could go in and out of everyone else's houses. And, you know, as a little spoiled, attention-seeking, egomaniac narcissist, which I certainly am and most certainly was, I would go in and out of the houses and try and entertain people. And then a new couple arrived on the street, Phil and Janine. Now, Phil was a lot older than Janine. She must have been about 22. Now, I'm only 6, so, you know, she's my older woman. And but Phil was a lot older, bald, little sort of Hitler moustache, but plenty of that. I learned something there and then about women and money, or about men and a lack of money too. But the thing about Janine was she dressed up very, very provocatively. I mean, you got to go back to time now, you know, little lace gloves, like on a Wednesday afternoon. Now, all the other housewives on the street, they had like aprons on and like rubber gloves doing the washing up, and you know they were not sexual. They were not. Janine, however, she'd walk up and down. She'd go and get a loaf of bread and a pack of fags in like red stilettos and her little white lace gloves and a boob tube. I was just like, it was incredible. Now, what was interesting, even at that young age, I could tell that all the men in the street, all the married men, were gutted. They had that thing, they had the pain, they had the combination of how exceptionally lucky they were to be able to look, you know, to engage in the essentially male sexuality of staring like a murderer at a lady. But then the confusion and like I said, the pain of not really being allowed to touch her. Now, when you're a little 6-year-old boy, oh, you don't have those problems. And I just went straight up and sat on her lap, and I can remember her warm, brown, bare legs underneath my cold, anemic, white, half-starved legs. And just thinking, this is fucking bliss. Really? Knowing it then. And I remember she put her hand up my top, up my little 100% nylon, don't sit in front of the fire. I just realised that I'm getting so eager, I'm getting towards the camera, no one can see me, sorry. I can remember her hand going up my little don't sit in front of the fire Star Wars t-shirt and just sort of stroking me. After the first time, every time I was in her presence, whether it was at her house or at my mum and dad's house or at someone else's house, a street party or something, I would just go up to her, top up, lay down, and she would just drag her long red fingernails all over my belly. And once she even commented on my young boner. Young boner achieved. And they were all giggling, and I was in absolute sexual heaven, 100%. And she would just be doing it whilst talking to people with a Rothman cigarette, just going, "Well, I know, Pauline. I mean," and I could see, and I would look at the adult males, and they'd be looking at me, just, "You little cunt." So that was the wonderful Janine. I'm trying to tell you what she looked like. She had massive lips and she'd just paint them purple. I mean, a beautiful woman anyway, but I never got to see her real face because she'd always painted this sort of blow-up doll over it. Christ, Janine. Okay, the second one. Up my street there was a brothel. Now, I didn't know it was a brothel till years later, you know, when I become an adult and I was privy to such things. But it was only like 7 doors up from my mother's house. And you had... I've got to go careful on the names because some of the women from there now follow me on Facebook. I'm sure they won't mind me sharing this if I don't dox them. But me and my mate David, we used to go to the back window and just look in there. And you'd see them all just hanging around in their suspender belts and their stockings and their little negligees and their massive early 80s hairdos. just standing there for hours just looking at these women. It was... fucking awesome, man. And what came with that was much stranger things like that. There was a cab driver always parked up outside. Now, I know why now. He was picking up and dropping off punters. But, you know, he was hilarious. You'd sit out there as a kid and he'd be like a poser, but to like 8 and 9-year-old kids. So you'd be standing there and they'd have a cigarette on the go and they go, "Hey, you boys." I think he was Italian. "Hey, you boys. You know what I've been doing? I've been fucking the ladies. You know, I fuck one lady so much, she cannot sit down still. It's been about 6 days." Shit. I mean, I was alright just looking through the window at these incredible women. But, you know, no, he wanted to share more with us. Yeah, some people think I just drive a car. Oh, no, I got other names. They call me the big man of Italy. Okay, so moving on. I've got my little list here. Oh, now the next one is one of those things that happens once in a childhood, if not once in a lifetime. We were very poor, and I saved up my own money, like Christmas money, added it to my birthday money, got a £5 off my nan once, added it to this, done some car washing, sold some second-hand watch bracelets, let people touch my goat skull. You can find out all about that shit on my channel. I'll put a link to that video at the end, how I made money as a kid. Anyway, excuse me. So I saved up my money. I bought myself a BMX. It wasn't a great BMX. It wasn't your PK Ripper. It wasn't your Harrow Freestyler. It was like a no-name, probably made like in Estonia or something. But it was a BMX and I wanted one and I had one and I loved it. Of course, one morning I've woken up and it's gone. Stolen. Disappeared from the garden, crying my eyes out. Went to school, still crying at school. Ah! And I decided not to put up with it. Oh no, I'm going to do something about this. So I went looking around people's gardens. Now me and my mates, we used to, do you remember, I don't know if kids still do it, probably not. They don't really leave the house anymore because the world is full of paedophiles and Muslim murderers. But in those days, which were probably equally safe, we used to go garden hopping, you know, when you just like, wait for the sun to go down, go up an alley and then just run through people's gardens, jumping over their fences, hoping not to get seen, hoping to get seen so that you could have the thrill of the chase. There were these banks in Dartford, like you know, green banks. So you've got an house at the top, which weirdly it's garden sloped down, and then there's an alleyway at the bottom of that slope. And then you've got the top of a nut. Look, I'll tell you what. Imagine you've got a block of houses. Houses here, their garden ends. Then you've got the end of the other garden. That goes on to the next house. A normal block. But imagine you've tilted it on an angle. So one house is here, their garden, alleyway, the other garden. Fucking hell, man. Oh, geometry's exciting. Anyway, the point being, the alleyway had you at bedroom window level with the houses on the downslope. And I thought this would be ideal because I wouldn't have to opt through gardens. I could just go down there and look in everyone's garden. So I'm walking along this alleyway and it says, I remember there was a little gentle, like just a bit of spitting. Not people, no one was gobbing on me. It was just like, you know, there was a little bit of water in the air. And drizzle is the word I'm looking for. And I got to this one window and I could see these two girls, and they must have been about, well, I know how old they were because they were at the time 12. Because it turned out I knew who they were. I found out who they were later. But they were there, just two normal 12-year-olds playing in this back bedroom. And I've just sort of stopped. You know, I was 10. And I'm just sort of looking at them. And then they took their clothes off. No shit. And I was just... And I sat down. Oh, I got comfortable. Oh, there will be popcorn. I just sat down and they took their clothes off, but they had towels over their heads. Now, a lot of things that happen to us in childhood affect things that happen to us later on in life, but I can safely say I've never had a fetish for having sex with a woman with a towel over her head. But they had these towels over their head, obviously to hide their identity, but I'd already seen them when they were fully dressed. But I don't know, maybe it was an embarrassment thing. I don't know, maybe it was their weird 12-year-old lesbian fetish. But they then proceeded to put on a show for me. they were cuddling and touching and kissing each other's boobs. See me stammer then. I mean, I remember I'd done this in my stand-up. I used to say, oh, I watched a couple of 12-year-old lesbians once live. And I was only 10. and in the end, I changed it. I was 10 once and I watched a guy. It seemed to go down better. I didn't mean to say go down in this context. Anyway, I sat there watching this show, and then it really started raining, and less of a shit I could not have given. As far as I was concerned, the fact that it was now hammering it down meant there was less chance of anyone else coming along and ruining what was the best afternoon of my life. It was worth having my bike stolen. It was fantastic. I sat there for hours. You know, they were getting up to all sorts. And at one point, she's going like that. She's going like that. And I thought, you know, I wasn't very, apart from Janine, I hadn't really had a lot of sex action. Apart from having a woman drag her nails over my belly, I was very inexperienced. Nonetheless, like a bug to a fucking light, I was going down the garden. But of course, the nearer I got, they disappeared. And that sort of yo-yo went on for about 5 hours. They'd do a little bit more of a show, and then say, come here. And as I started approaching, they'd disappear. And I went home, and on the back of that, I learned to interfere with myself. Not properly, though. It was more like just sort of squeezing it until I went, like that. Which is pretty much how I still do it. No, not really. Okay, now I get to secondary school, and rumour is there's this girl that lets you fuck her. That's terrifying to me. That's terrifying. Again, my sexual experiences, apart from the magician here, are fingernails across the belly and watching girls through a window. Nonetheless, I managed to arrange it, and they had a camp. Like, you know, she wasn't, it was like, you know, some boxes and some trees and like a little camp, and me and a mate met her and her mate in there, and she played with my little prepubescent penis for about 6 hours while I just sort of kissed her until both our mouths were red with sores. You know how it works. And after that, I would have stayed there forever. I would have gone without food or water. I would have died there. It was, you know, this was it. This was all life was about for me to this day. And when it kind of finished, because, you know, we had to go home because we had parents wondering where their innocent young sex addicts were. The other girl, I don't want to name these people, I still know them. One of the other girls said, "Are you two coming out later?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah." And the girl I was with, she went, "I hope so. I reckon if he comes out later, I'll get a fuck out of him." Fucking hell, man. That walk home. Oh, not bliss. Not bliss. Not excited. Terrified. I didn't know how to do that. What did it involve? Was she going to scratch my belly with her fingernails? I had not a clue. Not a clue. I didn't go back. But I did end up seeing her again, and this was a weird one. I saw her with two other mates. I arranged to meet her at school. I said, "Do you want to meet me tonight?" And she was like, "Yeah, all right, meet me at 7:30 at the shops in blah, blah, blah." And as I was walking there, I bumped into two of my other mates. Not close mates, but blokes I knew from school. Blokes. We were like 12. And I was all giving it the big, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to go and meet so-and-so." And they were like, "Yeah, so are we." And she'd arranged the three of us. 12-year-old girl. just playing us like puppets. And in an alleyway, on a housing estate, she done that. Well, one of us got to stand in the middle. And when I was in the middle, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what to do. I was fumbling with bacon. I just was going... And I remember thinking, out of the two positions, the one in the middle where I'm just sort of not quite sure, or the one where she's going, and I'm going, yeah, that went on for about 4 hours, just the four of... Nice bird though, actually, lovely bird. I spoke to her recently. Anyway, let's move on from that. to I ended up working. I was underage, working as a Saturday job. I lied about my age. I was 14. I was working in a jean shop, and the boss was hot as hell. Her name was Louise, and she was absolutely beautiful. And there was this other, I mean, all the other staff there were women. I mean, the other couple was sort of old and like off my radar. Still would be. Well, of course it would, because there'd be about 200 now. But Louise, and I can't remember the other woman's name. The other one was about like 19, and Louise was about 25, and she was the manager. And this was like mid 80s, and this was like big hoop earrings, hair, having trouble getting through the door without ruining your hair, white stilettos, you know, rah-rah skirts, and stuff that will still send my penis free of my body, out of my flies, on its own trajectory towards a female, should such a collection of aesthetics be spotted in the street. And the weird thing was, they knew it. It was like reverse Lolita. I was like this young boy, and they would sexually tease me. Like, we used to go out to sort of promotional events and shit. They found out I was underage, but I was so good at selling denim. Oh yeah, denim seller. That they sort of blagged it. I don't know how, but it was all right. But I'd be in these nightclubs like at 14 with my chinos and pamplemousse top on that I'd get out of the shop. Like, hello. No hairs on my cock whatsoever. Well, not on my balls is what I meant. I still haven't got hairs on my cock. Imagine. I had a dream once that I pulled my foreskin back and it looked like the end of a paintbrush. You know, the hairy end. Oh my gosh. Anyway, they'd get dressed up to go to these nights out the back in this shop. And I'd be in there, and there goes my light. I'd be in there, and it'd be like, Chris, can you do my zip up? And I'd just be, because now I'm not 6, now I'm not 7, 8, 9. Now, you know, now I am entering puberty, and to be doing the zip up of this beautifully formed bronze angel, while her ass was sticking out just like half a foot from my almost certainly about to literally explode, a la the head of the man in the opening scene of Scanners, was something else. And this would go on regularly. I mean, every Saturday there'd be some kind of thing where, I mean, the two of them once, they played this game. You know the old, oh, don't tickle me, I love it. Well, it was that kind of thing. They'd tell me to go out the back to sort out some stock, and I'd go out the back, and I'd be like, well, hang on, what's this? And then suddenly the door would slam, and they'd both be standing there like all dominant, like with a ruler on her hand. And shit, man, I'm coming. And then they'd like just, you know, chase me around and grab me. And the joke would be that they were trying to get their hands down my trousers. And I'd be like, oh, no, don't do that. But, you know, as soon as they got sort of near, there was like a sort of a social contract, may I say, where it was like, if I just stop and let them, this is sexual abuse. Which I would have been fine with. I would have been absolutely fine with. But, no, but again, that was prolonged, and I'd... yeah, that was something else, and that was around the same time where at my school there was a teacher called I was about to say her name actually, and she was this incredible blonde, fucking just beautiful. And again, I'm 14 years old. She hated me but loved me. She loved me. Can't believe I just said it. It's weird, isn't it? I can get away with hate. Oh, she hated me, but when I went, she loved me. Everyone was like, fuck off. But I was by this time I was really playing up at school. I was bunking off loads of lessons. I didn't give a shit. And I remember I've walked in her class and I just left the door open. She went, were you born in a barn? And I was, I was just like, are you going to end up in one? And then sort of just sit down and not do any work. At the end of this one, oh no, that's it. In the actual class, I'm looking under the desk. And she clocks me. Right, I'm a kid, I'm 14. And she sees me. And she's got on these very heavily patterned, what I assumed was tights or something, and I'm just sort of looking at her legs. You know, I'm a young man. I'm an old boy, young man. I'm a teenager, and I'm just looking, and I'm just aroused as hell. Oh, she opens her legs, and she's got stockings on, and now I'm looking at her knickers, and I'm sort of terrified again, but in the best possible way. Just incredible delights. You know, at the end of the class, she went, "Okay, everyone, make sure you get your homework in and I'll see you on Thursday. Dangerfield, stay behind." And oh my fuck, my heart, you know, my little school badge on my second-hand blazer was going, I thought she's going to want me to do the sex, and I don't, and I was just sitting there and I was physically shaking. Not because I didn't want to do it, because I didn't know what to do. And I didn't... Put yourself in that position. And I sat on that desk. And I remember she got a ruler out. Like a meter stick. And she had heels on. And she walked around my desk. Right? Hitting her hand with the meter stick. Just all I could hear was a... of her heels on the parquet floor as she went round behind me. And she basically put in a verbal domination session. She was going, "Who do you think you are, little boy Dangerfield?" Fucking hell, I was going, please never end. And then she'd sort of get to the front and she'd sort of give me a little smile, and I'd sort of go, and she'd go, "You think this is funny?" And I'd go, no, I think it's the most erotic thing that's ever happened to me. She got chucked out of that school in the end. I can't imagine why. Most certainly probably fucked loads of children. It's weird, isn't it? I mean, I've told all this stuff to rehab centres, in group therapy and all that, and they're like, they look at me really seriously and go, "You realise this was an abusive situation, Chris?" And I'm like, no, it wasn't. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I mean, I've been asked to do a video for On the Offensive channel, and that video is called, well, anyway, look out for it, because if you think these are abusive, and yet I liked them, that video, oh. Anyway, the what's the thing? The last one. Oh yeah, the last one. When I worked in that jeans shop, there was one of the, I think it was called Sweetie World or something. What the fuck? Why didn't I do that about a half hour ago? There was a shop in the centre, you know, it was like called the Arndale Centre or the Priory Centre, the Arndale. There was another shop called Sweetie World, and there's a girl that worked in there, and I had like my first teenage crush on her, like again, 14 years old. And every lunchtime I'd go and just stand in there looking at her like, and I'd do anything for her, and, you know, with my poxy sort of £10 a day wages, I'd buy her a box of chocolates and take it round there and shit, you know. And again, she was all sort of, you know, flirtatious, really. But she must have been about 18, 19 at the time, which is significant at those ages. And I absolutely adored her. And, you know, I'd wait after work to see if I could walk home with her, even though it was in opposite directions. I'd steal a bit of my old man's Hud. Hud. Avon aftershave. My mum was an Avon lady. Hud. And of course you don't know at those ages. The more's the better. More's the better. And I'd sort of just stalked her basically, and would just go home, and, you know, and I'd see her sometimes on an evening out with a man, you know, a bloke with a car and sovereign rings, because she was 18, 19 and I was a kid, and it would break my heart and penis. And one day I didn't see her. She left that job, and about 6 months later I was at this weird party in this weird sort of, it was the Sea Cadets part of this lake somewhere near Dartford, and she was there, and I couldn't believe it. And I was talking to her, and I was like, and she just took my hand, she took me outside and sucked my cock. I'd never had anything like that before. And I was just laying there on the floor, and she was just sexually abusing me. Wonderful, wonderful abuse. And then she stopped. And I hadn't finished. And then she just stood up, and she gave me a look of utter disdain, and then walked off. And I remember a pain that I wouldn't know for another few years, and that I would know again and again and again and again. a pain that follows me through life. A pain that is always a couple of feet to the left. It took me until I was 16 to actually lose my virginity. I mean, that's old where I come from. I mean, there was one girl, I dry humped her for about 20 hours, both of her jeans on at a house party while her mum and dad were in the kitchen. But that doesn't count. And there was another girl at another party, but I'd had a bottle of Southern Comfort, and it was like trying to put a slug through a keel. But that didn't count. But then my first love, it took me 6 months to pull her. And after about 2-3 months of kissing and touching, one day it was agreed we'd do the act, and I got on my skateboard. I got on my skateboard, skateboarded round to the petrol station to buy some condoms. Oh, the innocence of childhood. There you go. There was some stories about my childhood. I'm going to give it a bit of time now. So if you want to subscribe to me, I think it's going to be there. Hey, you can subscribe to me there. And if you want to watch another one of my videos, well, fuck that. Just subscribe. YouTube keep chopping my fucking subs away. They took 800 off me a couple of weeks ago. 1,300 the week before that. Do us a favour and subscribe or like this. Tell your friends. Enjoy the party. I love you. Ciao.